Hey, amazing parents. How are you all doing today? My name is Fina Chichi, a parenting coach and consultant. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content on parenting teenagers. I know sometimes we can really think that parenting teenagers is one of those dreadful things to go through, but I want to assure you that on my channel you're going to get more and more relevant content that will encourage you through this journey. This journey should be enjoyed more than endured. And that's what I aim to bring to you on this channel. So today, I'm going to be sharing 3 reasons why teenagers tend to not listen very actively to parents. The first reason is that a lot of times the intentional conversation that we have as parents turns into a lecture and can be quite long. One thing that I've noticed in parenting my young adults and teenagers is that I try to keep the conversations very short. The longer the conversations are, the more you will start to see the eye rolling and all that, oh, there she goes again, and stuff like that. So it's very important for the teenager, for you to have your teenager listen to you, keep the conversations short. But how can these conversations be short if we've not even planned the conversations? And this is why I encourage parents as well to actually plan in advance those conversations you're going to have with your teenagers. It's really important because when you plan those conversations, then you know how long it's going to be. You know, okay, you're not going to get carried away, saying other things in that conversation. A lot of times, the aim for our conversation is transformation. The aim for our conversation is for our teenagers to build that reflecting muscle. And so it's very important to keep it short and avoid allowing your conversations to turn into lectures. Because when they turn into lectures, our teenagers literally shut down. Okay, so that's the first reason. The second reason that I've got here is a lot of times our conversations actually just come up unannounced. We don't pre-announce our conversations. And I'll tell you what I mean. Teenagers prefer it, and it works better when you tell your teenagers on time about the intended conversations. So you say things like, okay, I want to have a word with you about this. When are you going to be available about 6:30 this evening? Or what kind of time are you going to be available between 6 and 9 p.m.? So you almost like you give them the option to choose the time. When you prepare your teenagers in advance for a conversation, there is more likely a probability that they will be prepared for it and then listen. A lot of times, because we've just jumped into the conversation, we've just jumped into the so-called lecture that they think it's so unannounced that they're not ready for it, they're not prepared for it, and so they don't listen attentively to it. So I will encourage us to announce it, tell them on time. And I know that this could sometimes rub off on parents the wrong way, because we were used to, when we were growing up, we were used to our parents just saying it as it was. But today's generation is different. I want us to always have it in mind that we are in a different era. We are serving and parenting a different generation. So the fact that you do it differently from how you were brought up, it doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean that you are being disloyal to your parents or you're kind of criticizing your parents. No, it just really means that you are aware of the new era that we're in. You're aware of the way the teenagers of today's world actually think about things that we say. So it's really, really important to announce. Let them have a time, or let them decide a time depending on the time frame that you've given them. Again, because they've agreed to it, because they have kind of bought into that conversation happening later on, they're more likely to listen. And we really want them to listen. So that's the second reason why teenagers don't listen. The third reason I've got here why teenagers don't listen is because sometimes our conversations can be so laced with criticisms, and it's a put off for many young people. When a conversation is laced with criticisms, what happens is that we lose the conversation because our teenagers are focused and reacting to the criticisms and then not even paying attention to that well-intended information that we had for them in the first place. And this is the reason why point one is very important, because in point one, you plan your conversation. You see, when you plan your conversation, then you have the ability to edit out any criticisms that may come through. Okay, so having our conversations free from criticisms gives our teenagers a better chance to actually listen to what we're saying and get the point of what we're saying. And so it's very, very important that we pre-plan it so that we can edit out those criticisms and speak without criticizing them, correct them without criticizing them. A lot of times the criticisms actually shuts down the conversation and they then miss out on the valuable information that we had to share with them in the first place. So that's really key. And then the last point I wanted to make here is just for us as parents to remember that when you say something to your teenager and your teenager disagrees with you, that doesn't mean they didn't listen to you. Listening to you doesn't equate to agreeing with you. Sometimes they may not agree in the first place, and it's okay. As long as they're polite about it. I tell my teenagers, I say, you know what? I don't mind you disagreeing with what I've said, but let the disagreement be very, very respectful. We can have a cordial and collaborative conversation about why you disagree about it. And I can give you some of my thoughts and then get you to reflect on it, get you to go think about it. That's the adult way to speak to young people. That's the respectful way to speak to young people, because when you approach them with respect, they tend to respect you back because that's all they can see from you. So they tend to retaliate with respect. They tend to reciprocate with respect as well. So I always say they may not agree with us at first, and that's not a problem. Get them to think about it, get them to reflect on it, and then get them to talk to you about why they don't agree so that you guys can have that respectful conversation. It helps our teenagers to actually build up their reflective muscles so that when they're out there with their peers and they have a choice to make, they're not just jumping into those choices just because their peers are jumping into those choices. They have that muscle built in where they reflect on things before they actually take on action. So really, really important to think about these 3 points why teenagers may not be listening to us and the things that we can then do so that they can then listen to us. And remember, listening doesn't mean agreeing with us in the first place. Give them the opportunity to reflect and to think about what we've said as well. I trust this helps. Remember, press the subscribe button to subscribe for more on parenting teenagers, and I will talk to you in my next video. You take care. God bless.